Hey y'all, it's your girl Michaela with Live, Learn, and Exercise, the podcast. Welcome back to an episode that dives really deep into strength amongst chaos. As you can recall in part 1, Tabitha and I go into detail about our experiences being strong Black women in various contexts, notably as parents, as leaders in predominantly white organizations, and even in local places like the grocery store. As we pivot into part 2, we spend a lot of time talking about our work in diversity and inclusion. And these are not just punch words. Diversity and inclusion really comes down to all sorts of group, team, and organizational dynamics. So as we look forward and move into the episode, I want you all to focus on 3 key questions. When does diversity become chaotic instead of empowering? And successful collaboration does require more than good intentions. We established this, but how exactly do we get there? And last but not least, how do we replenish ourselves when grief or loss have emptied us? We get into those topics and so much more in what I felt was an exhilarating discussion about strength, about overcoming obstacles, about powering through and falling back. So, Strength Amidst Chaos, part 2. Let's talk about it.
You've got to create the space to understand that the community around you can help raise the child. Right. And they all have equal feedback and guidance and things that can shape that individual. And we've got to create space to bring that in. And collaboratively, we do that every day at work, right? Like we're collaborating with different departments. You're collaborating with the people that you trust and know.
In theory, you are.
In theory, in most cases.
And actually, probably the goal is that collaborate. I love collaboration. Yeah. That is one of my favorite core values. It's a personal value, core value, all of that. But wrapped up in collaboration is this very important skill set that I think a lot of people lack. Yeah. And I talked about it on a previous episode. It's called cultural competence. Yeah. Intercultural competence. It's exactly what you and I actually discussed in the beginning of this show, where we talked about your approach to something and my approach to something, and how it took us actually understanding our perspective, valuing our perspective or our approach enough to also place value on the other person's. Mm-hmm. And now that we know what we bring to the table and what that other person brings to the table, now you can collaborate. Correct. If you're stuck in a situation where you're only seeing self, or you're only seeing the other person, or worse, you're not seeing either. Right. How is collaboration possible? Yeah. Collaboration requires the sophistication to have self-awareness. Yes. To have some type of emotional intelligence, but like respect and value of like your social relations and all of that. And now that you know those things, having the desire to leverage all of that. Yeah. So and build keep building. People throw that collaboration word all the time, and it requires a skill set. It's just not put 2 people in a room or a bunch of people in a room and everybody shoot ideas off each other. Wow, collaboration. That's not what it is. That's not how it works. And great leaders would never do that to their employees, because it never, ever works. You can never drive the business ahead when you just put 2 opposite people into a room and say, y'all figure it out. You're professional enough, figure it out. That does not work. That does not drive businesses. You're a business owner. You own many successful businesses. I am currently a business owner, and I have people. And again, it is a lot about understanding individuals. That's what a mentor and a guide and a coach does, is understand the differences, point those differences out, but then let's talk about the opportunities of what we can do together to work together and make it better. And when you do that and you create that foundation, as a leader, I've had employees report to me who didn't necessarily get along. And I needed to be the instrumental person to build that foundation and build the safe space for them to be able to collaborate together. But that's only because you have the skill set and understanding. I laughed when you said that, because I feel like you and I got put in a room together one time and they were like, figure it out. We did. Now that worked because of who you are and who I am. And we figured it out. Yeah. But that is not, you can't do that in all situations. No. That's really funny. And that's literally how like our relationship started, because you were very
you were the lady in the grocery store. I'm gonna get on her for a second because she was the lady in the grocery store that was very passionate, right, about your people, about your system, about your process.
And true, I was talking the truth too.
True,
yeah,
all of it, valid, all of it valid.
Right.
And I was passionate about driving systemic, where we were going, goals.
Right.
I'm seeing the 10-foot view.
Right.
Those views had never been shared.
True and valid.
True and
valid.
The views had never been shared because we were in a space where there was nobody there to build the foundation to explain what the future of success looked like from your perspective and my perspective, and why we should be working together. Right. And in the moment, it was so passionate for me. I had to hold back tears because I was fighting for my person, but you were fighting for your people. And I was able to walk away from that situation in reflection, because that's in most cases, like I shared.
You're amazing at that, by the way.
I try to do the reflection. And, on my drive back, I thought, I really actually like her.
Yeah.
She really, made some valid points, and here's what it is. And it's not her and I, it's actually probably the people we work with.
The system wasn't set up. And so again, I do the work of diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
And
a great job at it, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. To put people in a room together and say and figure it out, that's performative.
Yeah.
That is diversity alone.
Right.
Diversity alone is chaos.
Yes.
You think about if you put people from I hate to get political. Put a Trump supporter in with an AOC supporter in one room and say, figure it out. There's no way. They don't understand each other's goals. They don't understand what drives each other. They don't understand where we're going together, and they don't understand how to collaborate. There's no foundation for collaboration. It's just diversity. And so when people ask for diversity, you don't want diversity. Yeah. You actually want inclusion, which is diversity plus that intercultural competence that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened a lot, where it's like we think we're doing a good job because look, we done, sprinkled a couple African Americans into leadership roles, or there's women here, right? We're doing a good job. We're diverse, but we're not inclusive. Number one, because we haven't ensured that all of these individuals, all of these parties have the tools and the training to recognize their themselves and what they bring to the table, respect and recognize goodness and qualities in other people, and then have the resources to actually collaborate.
Yeah.
That's what is missing. So when you don't have all of that, the latter package of that, it's just diversity and chaos. And so I walked away from that situation with exactly the same takeaways. Like, first of all, I like her. Mm-hmm. Anybody who could sit in the room with me and go toe to toe, that's the type of chick I want to be around. I want to be around people who are passionate, who are down for their team, who are well-spoken. I feel like people like you make me better. And I've always wanted to surround myself with people who make me better.
Yes.
And I walked away like understanding this is not a personal thing. This is a lack of structure.
Yes.
This is a lack of clarity.
By no fault to our own.
And these are two really strong opinion and passionate people trying to make sense out of chaos.
That's right.
And in the end, we did it. And we did it pretty quickly too.
We did.
I don't want to forget this. I want to roll back because I had a really interesting conversation. I do now attend therapy once a week, but before the illness of my dad, I didn't. And I always know I needed to. I mean, I lost my mom at 11, there was drugs, there was a lot of stuff. And though I feel like I lived a privileged life in spite of that, like I've always been lucky, been blessed. My sister will say we always had a little bit more than the people around us. So we felt, I've always known that I needed therapy. Like I've been very cognizant. Just, you become successful in life. You're like, oh, I can put it off. It's not hindering me that much where I haven't been. Okay. So
it's also a stigma in our community of like, I feel like because we're taught to be so strong, that the moment you are talking to a therapist or going into therapy, it's like, oh, well, she's weak.
Yeah.
And it's a stigma.
It's a stigma, but like also it's something that we do to ourselves as strong Black women.
Yes. Instead of accepting
you
help.
Push through, you make do, you keep it moving.
Yes.
And sometimes you need to pull back and not push through, go through.
Well, one of the things I experienced, working in the same company as you was the word of you always need to not only collaborate, but you've got to kind of figure it out, and you're left to do it on your own. You're left to facilitate those conversations on your own. And so it's like, meet people where they're at, right? I hear that all the time. That word was meet people where they're at. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that if I met them where they're at and we just went there, we wouldn't move together as an organization. We could never move forward because there's so many meet people where they're at in different stages, and that's okay, right? In every organization, you've got, your employees here, your employees here, your employees here, and you're trying to get these employees up to here. That's just systematic how you're doing it. Right. But you can't always meet people where they're at. You need to explain to that person why meeting them where they're at affects the other things. Right. And when people say, well, meet them where they're at, I thought to myself, you've never met me where I'm at. Right. Because I, on adrenaline, have come in here every single day doing what I needed to do, regardless of health, regardless of all the other things going on in my background. I check that at the door because you're told when you're in the corporate environment that that's what you do. Yeah. Right? Nobody's ever met me where I'm at.
So the term is intercultural competence, and it's because it's two-way. Mm-hmm. It's not one way.
Right.
Everybody in the circle has to have intercultural competence. So one person having it is better than none, right? But it's the organization, the groups, whatever responsibility to try to get as many people at the table into that space to really leverage diversity into inclusion. Yeah. But you're right. You can't just always be meeting the one person where they are. They have to be meeting you where they are as well.
Yes.
I was just laughing. I was laughing when you said this because I just had to correct one of the members at my club who reiterated, I think, the biggest example of that misperception, which is the customer's always right, which I've always hated, which probably makes your skin crawl as a career customer service. Yeah. No, my motto is the customer is always right unless they're wrong. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And what I came up with the other day when I spoke to her was like, the customer's not always right, but the customer's always human. Mm-hmm. And that's for me, what that means is that you're not always right. I get a lot of people who come saying some crazy stuff and they're not right, but they do get the dignity and the respect from me as a human being who is obviously upset about something. Mm-hmm. So the way I handle you has to be with care, but I'm not going to always capitulate to you. Yeah. And so I laughed that whole thing about meeting people where they are implies that they're always right. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're not right. I started talking about therapy because we had a really unfortunate situation happen at my club, and it caused me to request an on-site therapist for my team. Okay. This was a traumatic situation. I knew that people were pushing through and affected by this, and I was like, they may not come to you to ask for help, but I want to make sure that on this day, at least, there's somebody here just waiting for them to walk into the office. And of course, nobody walked into the office. I was like, you know what? I've never been to therapy. I know I need some damn therapy. Let me go keep this man company and went in. And I had like the best. It actually prompted me to pursue counseling now because I had so many light bulb moments. But the main one, because I started talking about, I wanted easier mornings with my boys. Okay. I felt like my mornings were always kind of sometimes, I don't know, like I'm on them. Yes. Hurry up. You're going to be late. We got to be in the car. Eat breakfast. Wipe the stuff off your mouth. It can be contentious sometimes. Yes. And then you string that every day. Every day that's happening. I don't want memories with mom to be that I was always on their back and to cloud all the funny and fun moments. That's right. So I was cognizant of that. And I was just like, listen, like, it's not working. It's not working. And it's also not effective because I'm doing this every morning and I'm still having to do this every morning. You're repeating yourself. So one thing he taught me, and this is hard with our personality type, he was like, so give me an example. And I was like, what? My son, he comes out of the bathroom and he has food in his, or he comes out of the bathroom, he has toothpaste all over his mouth. And I was like, it drives me nuts. Yeah. And he's like, okay, so what happens when you tell him once and he doesn't do it? What happens? Mm-hmm. And I was like, he goes to school, they tease him. He was like, and so what? Mm-hmm. And And I was like,
and so what? And so
he was like, he learns.
Yeah.
If that's not favorable to him,
he
learns not to do that.
That's right.
And if not, then you catastrophize something that wasn't even worthy of it. So, and so what?
Yeah.
And it was like ding, 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 ding. So what?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an expert at this. I need to work that. So be it.
Yeah.
Hashtag so be it.
Right.
But it was eye-opening to me. He was like, you don't have to catastrophize everything. And what it is that we see their life 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead. And so we're constantly coaching them for the future that we know, in the interactions we know they're going to encounter 5 years.
Yeah.
But at the behest of that relationship that we want every morning. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I work on that now. Like, so what? Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, he doesn't put deodorant on today. Tell him once. Yeah. Tell him once, because you still are a mother. You still are a parent. You're supposed to be coaching. Tell him once, and then leave it alone.
That would drive me crazy, though, because I'm like so OCD about being put together.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But that behavior actually spills out into other sort of like not pertinent things where like I'm micromanaging Michael about other stuff or whatever. And so I think about that a lot. But so what?
So I've had that experience too, where like the mornings are incredibly chaotic and on reflection, because I do this, a lot of times it's in the car because I'm always driving. Right. But it was like a moment for me where I was like, man, like I was yelling, I was screaming, like, how does that set them up for success for the day? Right. And so while I still do some of that, what I make sure that I do is I text them each a powerful message every morning. Right. And I always end with, be kind, know that you're smart, and that I love you. Yeah. And they get that text from me every single morning. And I even started doing it with my husband. I'm not yelling and screaming at him, obviously. But there's something very powerful in encouraging a man. Yes. But also a Black man. Yes. Every single day, from the person that is micromanaging, guiding, coaching them, they need to know that they are important, they are heard, they are worthy, they are smart, and that they need to be kind. Yes. And so I have taken it back where that is my thing. Like, I know, okay, this is kind of like mommy saying I'm sorry, but not saying sorry. Right? Like, okay, I'm texting you to let you know, like, regardless of anything that I said, you're smart, be kind, have a wonderful day, and that I love you. Right. And I personalize those messages, and they change differently, but I always end with be kind. Yeah. And I have started doing that with my husband as well, because I feel like when you're going to work, you're already probably getting beat up in meetings. You're getting beat up by your staff. They get it out there. They don't need to get it in here. No, exactly. In some companies, there's the politics of the company and the rumor mill and all this stuff that's going on. I'm fighting that every single day, that when I come home, that's your safe space. Yeah. So you want to know the people there care about you. So that's huge. That's a great strategy. I may start doing. I did those when they were younger. I used to leave them handwritten notes. Yeah. But now we do the affirmations in the car, and my oldest, he thinks this is silly. My youngest eats it up though. Yeah. And so we do the affirmations where they also tell themselves that, and I co-sign. I also put a cap on how many corrections I do in the morning. So for me, it's like, I'm not going to do more than 5 corrections in the morning. Once I hit 5, so be it. Yeah. So most of the time, that's like, put deodorant on or whatever. But I try to cap it. And part of that cap is also me just saying, like, just let it go. Just let it go. It's a lot of self-talk, but it is really important. You're right. The things they have to encounter out in the real world checks that box as far as correction and check-in. They don't, and we are the people who they look to for strength and love. Like, especially with your children, you're the first woman they love. That's right. You're the first woman's opinion who matters. Mm-hmm. There'll be others. Yes. But you're the first, and that's always going to be meaningful. And I noticed this more with my younger son, that, like, me getting on his case actually does strip his confidence. It affects him. Yeah, the confidence. My oldest is different. I think it's actually the same, but he displays different. Yeah. With my youngest, I can see the change in his body language. Yes. And I'm like, oh. Now you know how he's feeling. I went one correction too far. Yeah. And then I have to build it back up, and I have to say, listen, this is the dynamic of kids and parents. Yes. Parents nag, and kids do, have to be nagged at. That's true. And my dad did it to me, and my mom did it to me, and I'm doing it to you. But guess what?
I'm nagging at you for being forgetful because guess who else is forgetful? This girl.
That's right.
And then I try to connect it, but and just like kind of be human to them. But I'm like, and so that's one part of it. The other part of it is like, tough enough, okay?
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Like it's both sides of it.
It's an equal balance.
You're gonna go out there. You're gonna hear a lot of crazy
worse
stuff.
than what I said. Yeah.
And you can't shut down.
Yeah.
So, but it's a balancing act. It's so hard. I mean, parents out there, I know it's so hard. I know, but
instead of the corrections, like you limited yourself to 5.
Yeah.
As a coach, the way I see that is give them 5 things to accomplish.
Right.
For the day.
Right.
So if the accomplish is make sure your mouth is wiped. Make sure you did this. Make sure you did this. You did this. You did this. Just top 5.
Yeah.
Top 5 to accomplish for the day, right? At the end of the week, we're going to go to Dave & Buster's. Or we're going to do this if you hit your top 5. So now he's inspired to do the things that you were going to yell at him about in the first place.
Right.
And because he reaps a reward.
And so that has to be, that's a great approach. Yeah. That has to be a proactive conversation because my 5 limitation is all reactive.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to not say anything because my hope is that I don't have to remind him. Yeah. And if I have to correct him, I only can do it up to 5. But you're talking about something proactive.
I'm saying, hey, today you've only got 5 things to do. These are the 5 things.
Okay.
Let me know when you got it done. Because it's reverse psychology actually.
Yeah.
And I use that a lot in just coaching, mentoring sales teams. Like, just in my life and your life, we got a whole list of things to get done. Yeah. But what are the most important things that I need to do in my household? What are the top 3? What are the top 5 I've got to do today for the job, right? Payroll Mondays. Oh my gosh.
Don't talk to me on payroll Mondays.
That could take you hours and you've got to get that done. You've got to get this report out. It could be very, very stressful.
Right.
So it's like, you know what? I've got a top 5. I've got a top 10 for the day. Right. If I can accomplish these 10 things, I did good as a leader.
Yeah. Studies show that most people respond to positive reinforcement. There's a handful of people who need negative reinforcement.
That's right.
You won't lose your damn job.
Yes.
You don't do this. But for most people, the positive reinforcement is the one that matters.
It'll drive them. Yeah.
We're flirting around diversity and inclusion. And one of our most collaborative experiences together was being founding members. Again, we didn't know this. What would have been industry leading diversity and inclusion board. And we were there from the very beginning, from the uproar that led to the creation of the board, to being founding members, to creating the infrastructure, and for years pushing that entity forward and pushing that company forward.
Yeah.
So tell me, kind of reflect on that time and reflect on that work, and just talk to me about that, because we don't talk about it a lot, but it was pretty important work.
Yeah, it was pretty important. I think it came at a time that was critical for just the world, right? It was a hard moment for a lot of people of color to hear all of the things that were happening on the news at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't an initiative that I think many companies had even thought about.
Right.
And it almost happened when many different scenarios were happening. Like, I was just like, is the news just happening to report on this now? And they're pushing it forward? Is it just coming in my algorithms on my timeline, or is this real?
Right.
And it was real. And it was out of a pandemic when people were already depressed. And there was a lot of mental health issues that were put on pause because we couldn't go out into the world. And, I think that you were a very big driver of the company taking a stance. I think that they knew they wanted to do something, but didn't know what it was going to be. And you had a lot of great insight and purpose behind it. And so, you and I kind of got together, and I think I was very more reserved. I was learning from you in the moments. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I could share. I've had a lot of besides growing up in just the country and all of those things, I had a lot of contention as it relates to race and all of the things, and equity and inclusion and all of that. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Yeah.
And I remember, we were forming the board, you were doing all of the things, writing up, you were putting hours and hours of unpaid work.
Another full-time job. Volunteer.
Work into this. And the moment that I really knew we were doing something big and that I didn't understand the space and needed to grow personally was when we had a board member come to me and they were like, hey, I just wanted to know, because we're going to be updating the website with bios and, what are the acronyms that you use?
I remember this. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, I'm sorry.
Pronouns.
Yeah. He's like, what are your pronouns? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I just have to admit that I'm not very close to this at all. Could you educate me? And he educated me. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm she. And her. Right. I just came to, I was like, first of all, let's get that clear.
Yeah.
And no, I was like, I appreciate you telling me because I'm not familiar with it and I've never been close to it. And it's probably something, even though I had done a lot of work in the community with LGBT in Hagerstown,
right.
A prior company that I worked for was a very big advocate for going to all of the different things, the celebrations and things like that. I wasn't very close to understanding all the different terminologies. Right. And even today, I'm not great at it, right? Yeah. But I started to learn, and I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from you, and it was definitely it still is an important initiative. I think one of the biggest pieces was like we could make change and we could push change, and this was the vessel for which to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't get behind anything that I don't believe in. And if I believe that it's working, if I believe that this is what the company is behind and this is what we're doing, I'm behind it wholeheartedly.
Exactly.
And that's why you probably dedicated all of your time.
I was a believer in not only the opportunity, but the people who were behind the opportunity.
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, I bought in.
Yeah.
As a passionate, sometimes called aggressive person.
Yeah.
I have to buy in. It's a field.
It's being a change agent for the company, but representing its people, which we had never done before.
We had never done, yeah.
I think we dabbled in maybe like taking stances on social media about real live world problems. Mm-hmm. And even that came up, if you remember, while all of this was happening, it was like, do we say that we stand with this individual? Do we say we stand with this group of people? Do we say anything at all? What do we do? And
it's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
In my studies now, I learned that there's a lot of cognitive dissonance in that you're feeling that you should do and say one thing, but the context and the situation either forces you to filter that out or do something different. Definitely. And so in that time, in 2020, the company was at a real crossroads, trying to move away from some of the behaviors and the commonalities that led to some gaps, and trying to change it. Yeah. And that was a very admirable place to be for me.
It was.
I don't know if you know this story. I didn't want to be a part of the board. I don't want to be a part attached to any of that. I had a whole career, a whole reputation and name before coming to Vita.
Yeah.
Vita was like my vacation money job. I was like, I'm going to come here and I'm going to be in the smallest, I'm going to be the group fitness manager at the smallest club in the back room. Don't talk to me. I don't want to do anything. Yeah. I was happy. And then, you can never run away from yourself.
Yes.
When you're a powerhouse of a person, you know this, you can only be you.
That's right.
People will only see your light and your glow.
That's right.
And no matter how much you try to diminish yourself, fit yourself into a box, or other people try to do it, the most beautiful and the scariest thing about people like you and I and a lot of people out there is that the glow is too bright. And so, but before doing the work with the board, I was trying to do that.
Yeah.
And I also had some personal experiences, and I can say this because I voiced this to our leadership at the time, which is part of the way I got on board, because I was like, what I'm not going to be a face and a voice to the company you want to be. You're not going to, because I'm Black and I'm female and I'm a manager, you're not going to say, see, look, we're diverse, we're inclusive.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, I'm not going for that.
Right.
I have some real issues, and the reason that I'm not down with this right now is because this is how I have perceived this company in this moment.
Yeah.
And until I hear something different, I don't want no parts of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that was well received. It was validated, and the connection that I made through my story and their shared stories made me feel like I had allies in this future together.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'm down right now. We family now. I said, but at any moment, I get the idea or the feeling that this has changed,
yes,
you will lose me.
Yeah.
I'm just that type of chick.
Right. Right.
You got to keep my heart in it.
Yes. Be genuine. Yeah.
My brain, not so much. You got to keep my heart in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that came from. But I remember that conversation you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that stood out for me in that conversation were about pronouns.
Yeah.
Is this whole thing about seeing it in terms of yourself.
Yes.
When that board member asked, all of us unseasoned DEI advocates at that time thought about how we wanted to be heard and seen. We were like, you can't see I'm a woman?
Right.
I'm she, her, hers.
Yes. No.
But, and I actually said that, like, I don't do all of that because you can, there's no ambiguity right now.
Right.
That board member who actually was my employee in the company, but was a peer in that situation was like, this is not about you.
Right.
This is a signal to those who this does matter to, who it's not so clear.
Yes.
That this is a safe space for them to be them.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's not about you. This is about that person, that transgender team member, that, to let them know that you woke. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about it.
Yes.
The signals matter.
Yeah.
The signals that leaders send, the signals that companies send, the quiet signals, the signals that are not what you thought of or what you calculated, that matters. And so immediately when he told me that, I was like, you know what? You just elevated me. Yeah. And that was the cool thing about the board, especially in the early stages.
Yes.
There was no blueprint.
None.
There was no playbook. We created that thing from scratch, and it wasn't one-sided. I know there was a person who thought like, oh, we got this one person, these two people, they running everything. And it wasn't I didn't experience the board like that. Now, there were some natural leaders, and you were vice chair, I was chair. Like there were. Yeah. We can't have, our glow is our glow. Yeah, we're not going to be on a board and not be leaders because that's who we are. Yeah. But I experienced so much exchange of expertise, approach. I experienced so much of that. I'm just kind of going back and thinking about all the members of that the founding members. And we just it was so rich. Yeah. And the thing that bound us though was that like we were passionate, we were confident.
Right.
I'm going down that whole list. There wasn't one person that wasn't confident.
That's true.
And and when I say confident, I mean convicted. Yeah. Convicted. Yeah. It was a clear understanding of what's right and what's wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
And we were united because when individuals or even the board would come under even the slightest bit of attack, because you got to realize this was groundbreaking. Yeah. It wasn't always like, yes. No. We were very united and loyal to each other because of this common experience. Yeah. So that I have so many fun and funny memories. I just remember us being very overzealous as well. Like, everything was a mass injustice. And we learned together, like, if we start sounding the alarm on every single thing, the really big things, they're not going to take us serious. Yes. So we have to be a little bit more measured, get some systems, get a process for what qualifies, like what's worthy of our attention, what's worthy of our time. And I think the best part about the board at that time was that we were seen as respected peers of the organization. Autonomous, consulting, advising type, but highly respected peers. Right. Such that tough conversations could be had, were received, and in most cases, actually received and executed.
And led to change.
Yeah. We would say something and it was like, you're the experts. We're going to do this. We might not get it. We might not understand it 100%. In some cases, we don't 100% agree, but we respect y'all. Yes. Y'all have the pulse of the company because you are the ones doing the job or experiencing the company. And so even if we don't get it, we trust you. Yeah. And I miss that part of being on the board. Definitely. I mean, we're both still on the board, but we kind of phased out into sort of like a big sister and, ex officio positions. We're there. We're letting the new generation of leaders. Actually, because again, our glow is bright. Yeah. So with us being there, it's going to still be our board. Right. So we've made the concerted effort to lay back. But those were some of the most meaningful times. And so much so that it prompted me to go back to school. Like I've been out of school for 22 years.
Right.
I had no desire to go back to school. I went through rigorous education for years. I wanted to make money. I didn't want to keep studying money.
Yes.
But the work that I did with the board and within the company, it lit a fire in me so much so that I was like, I want to actually get some science and some research and some deeper understanding of all these concepts that make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I have that in this work.
That's great.
That I'm doing and studying. I feel like it has just it bumped me up to notches. Like, you're not gonna be able to tell me nothing. You couldn't tell me nothing before, but you definitely can't tell me nothing now.
Right.
So
because you know,
because I know and I got the facts and the research and the resources to back it up now. So now I'm not just passionately exerting something or saying something and convincing you of my persuasion skills. Like, now I'll drop some stats for you and be like, run, tell that.
Yes, right.
So,
right.
Shout out to the Diversity Inclusion Board. I think there was only one other topic that I wanted to really talk to you about. And it was this idea of reinventing oneself after trauma.
Yeah.
And as you know, I've undergone some recent trauma. You in some respects as well.
Definitely.
And we keep talking about this concept of strong Black women pushing through, strong Black women doing things, overcoming odds, trying to replicate ourselves. Again, it can be really hard for people who are accustomed to shaking it off and pushing through, sacrificing work-life balance in order to get a job done, sacrificing our needs as women for our husbands and for our children and for our family and for our parents. Talk to me about some of the resources or tools that you found helpful in like replenishing yourself. Let me rephrase that. Not reinventing, replenishing yourself.
Yeah.
Setting yourself up for growth.
Yes.
After situations, incidents that may have stunted or slowed that down.
Yeah, I think for me, I can go back to, maybe like 5 years ago, maybe 6 years at this point. My father had a very traumatic motorcycle accident. He's my best friend. I tell him that all the time. He lived through it. He is fine today. And when he walks, he's got one leg that you wouldn't tell, but if you looked closely, you'd know something happened. But it happened right in front of me. We were coming back from a baseball game. It was the first baseball game for my twins of the summer. And first time he had taken the bike out for the season. It was a beautiful day. Wow. Beautiful. One of those days between August and September when the weather is perfect. It's 70 degrees. The wind is blowing. And he took off in front of me. We came to the stop sign. He made the left. I made the left behind him. And an SUV crossed over the double yellow lines and he flew 85 feet in the air.
Wow.
I immediately threw my, SUV into park. I had my boys in the back and my nephew. It was a weekend, and he was going to be spending the weekend with me, and they were bawling. And I remember running out into the street to the field. It was just starting to settle where it was going to get dark. It'd get dark in August, September, around 8:30-ish, somewhere around there. And I could hear his voice, and it's the voice of a parent that only a child could hear. Right. There's a certain tone. Right. And I was immediately able to find him, and he had landed on his knees. And there's a book, actually, he's working on that he's writing about him landing on his knees and his faith with God.
Wow.
But, I knew in the moment not to take his helmet off and not to touch him because of the extensive injuries that I could look at and physically see. And then the marks on his helmet. And so I remember just yelling at him, his name, to get him to wake up, And he did. And he did wake up, and then he started to regain his consciousness. And that traumatic situation affected me greatly. I left the organization I was with. I had just left them like a week before and was looking for something to do better. And this happened. It was almost like God had prepared me to leave that job because he knew this was coming. Right. And in that moment, I became his sole caregiver between myself and my stepmother. It was rehabilitating him. They medevaced him over to West Virginia, one of the great hospitals out there. and he recovered. It was a long recovery, 6 months, a lot of lifting up his wheelchair and doing all of that. And in that moment, that trauma caused me to just take a step back, right? And take in family. And at the time, I was probably 300 and something plus pounds. I have pictures to prove it. And
don't believe you. You need more people.
Yes, and I was working on my own health, mental health, just health, eating better, being a better provider and a better example for my boys, and what we are, processed foods and all the things.
Right.
And that fueled my fire for that desire to want to be better, look better, work out, eat better, and take care of him. Lifting a wheelchair is no joke. I sprained my ankles, my wrist a couple of times. I had to put on the wrist things because I had to keep carrying that into the back of and there was times when I couldn't do it because lifting that up and out and trying to get him out
without
of the car,
without him in
it was enough that I knew I wasn't strong and I needed to get strong. And so in that journey of doing that and rehabilitating him was how I even came to the company that you and I met each other at. And I was on that journey. And so it was like perfect. I didn't know when I applied for that position what it was. I had to sign an NDA before they told me that it was the company we worked for. And it all just aligned. And, in the trauma from going through that, it was like I wasn't sleeping. I was hearing the hospital. I was recounting the impacts, the hearing of a motorcycle. I can tell when somebody's motorcycle makes a certain sound that person is off the motorcycle. All of that trauma was still in my head. And I had to focus on health, like physical health, what I was eating, what I was putting into my body. And I didn't lean on talking with somebody at the time. I didn't know how important that was. Mostly it was like going to my doctor and saying, listen, I can't sleep. Here's what it's like. I'm like, I have PTSD. He's like,
give me a sleeping pill.
Exactly. He's like, how do you have PTSD? Wait a minute, let's not go there yet. You can't just come in here and tell me you have PTSD. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, well, when I hear this sound, here's what happens. And when I do this, he's like, are you sleeping? And I remember him prescribing a pill that was so potent, by the way. I took half of it and fell out, and I got a good 9 hours sleep. I woke up and I threw those pills out. I never wanted to go through that again. That was way too much. But from a trauma perspective, I really went through just trying to reinvent myself to be better and picking myself up to be better. And, I think recently I've experienced some things in the workforce that's behind diversity, just things that I've experienced that were traumatizing in some sense, and I've had to do my own self-work. I'm currently doing that self-work, and it is talking with therapists. It is talking to other people, right? Because therapy doesn't always have to be the person that has a degree behind it. It can be you and me.
This is therapy.
Exactly.
This is therapy.
Exactly. And so it's talking to others and letting them know, right? Because strong Black women don't like to do this. So I'm not right, sis. Like, I'm not right now.
Right.
I remember there was one time you were with me and I was like, listen, mentally, right now, I just need a break. And my son said something to you like, listen, when mommy says she needs a mental break, take it for what it is.
She don't
real.
do it.
And she doesn't say it every day. So if somebody comes to you, regardless of color, regardless of gender, regardless of age, and they say to you that like they're going through a moment, in that humility as humans, we just need to collaborate and connect. Because I could say something that will change the whole dynamic of your day. And as a leader, right, taking it back to just personal and mentor and doing the things that I do, like that's what I do every day. I coach, mentor, guide. My job is to push you beyond the limits that you see of yourself.
So what I heard you say is that to sort of replenish, reinvent yourself, number one, you had to recognize when you needed help enough to be able to ask a doctor or ask your friend or ask a therapist. So that self-awareness and that being in tune with yourself is like everything. Tapping into those resources. So, through my most recent situation, I've had traumas in life, obviously. I've always just kind of realized I have amazing friends. I have amazing family too. But as a person who has lived life largely on my own, like I've been on my own since I was 14. I went away to a private boarding school at 14
Wow.
on a full scholarship. So I was making decisions. I had to get up out of bed and wipe the toothpaste off my mouth. Like I'm telling myself.
And make your bed military style.
Sign up for classes, advocate for myself. When I had a college counselor tell me that I shouldn't apply to my reach schools like Georgetown, I had to be like, nah, girl, I'm applying to Columbia, Georgetown, Duke, and got into all of them. Like I was thrust into that. Mm-hmm. So because even though I have siblings, I have really close cousins and family members who I grew up in the same house with, my friends have always been like the main support system just because they've been with me. Yeah. And so it is not, you shouldn't take it for granted that your friends are there. You actually have to use it. And not more than in this last phase of my life when people like you were just checking it. I wasn't always responding back. Yeah. Some days I woke up, I didn't have enough energy to process. I didn't have enough energy to listen. Yeah. I damn sure didn't have enough energy to talk. Yeah. Didn't have enough energy to walk, any of those things. Yeah. But my friends just kept being present. Right. The power of presence and doing little things to show me that in whatever capacity you need us, we're here. And I'm blessed to have people like you and a lot of people. It's huge. So utilize those resources. Right. Understand when you have the need. Utilize those resources. And then one thing that I've learned through counseling is this idea of understanding the grief process and embracing that. Yes. So much of what we think about with grief is like, get over the grief. We just want to get to the finish line. Right. And as a person who I've never done a drug. I've never smoked a cigarette. Neither have I. I can't stand the taste of liquor anymore. I'm not going to say I don't drink. I don't really drink. And I had enough drinking between like 20 and 25 to have lasted me for a lifetime. I don't drink. So in those moments where you're just wanting 5 seconds of reprieve. Yes. What do? Like I couldn't turn to a drug or a vice because I don't do it. Yes. And I understand how people do that, by the way. Right. Going through the grief process, I understand addiction better because I understand this overwhelming sense of just needing to get away. Just to breathe. I understand it. I talked to one of my friends who struggles with addiction and I was like, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it because like in that moment, your body, your heart is beating fast, your body. So anyway, understanding the grief process such that when you're feeling the feelings, it's not something you're trying to get away from. It's something that you want to acknowledge. Yes. And utilize the techniques to get through. And when you use those techniques to get through it, protect your peace. Protect the peace. In your last episode, you were like, if they don't see you, be gone. Be gone. Be nothing. Be nothing. And that's the reality of it. It's just a job. Yeah. It's just another person. Yeah. It's just a person you thought was your friend. Yeah. If you need to protect your peace, protect your peace. Because you need the space to go through that grieving process. Yes. That grieving process does not go away because you don't make time for it. That's right. Or because you try to sweep it under the rug or you try to accelerate through it. Yes. And that's something as now a seasoned adult, I understand. Right. Because again, I told you, I've been through a lot of traumas in my life. Right. I don't know if I've handled it or processed it in the way that I'm processing it now. And it feels good. Right. Even though it feels bad. Yeah. So going through the grieving process, owning your feelings, acknowledging your feelings, but owning that you're healing. Yes. Feeling the feelings are a part of the healing. Mm-hmm. That has been huge. And I think I told you at the beginning of the year, I was like, this year in 2025, I'm going to be a weak Black woman and I'm going to be a snitch. And that's snitches get stitches. I know. Shout out to our girl. All right. That's an inside joke. We won't name names. Yeah, we won't. Not yet. But what I meant by that was not putting the sort of the stress and the responsibility on me to be so strong all the time. Okay. So at work, if I feel like I'm being triggered or I feel like someone is trying to push me into being an aggressive Black woman by the way they talk to me, or by the way they handle me, I'm not going to be tight-lipped until I have to respond and then it looks like I'm the one that was aggressive. Yes. I'm not going to be the one who just pushes through. Yeah. It's not being weak, it's a play on words, but it's like I'm going to be the opposite of what I've been doing, which is stoic, quiet, and reactive. Mm-hmm. Because what I've learned is that while you being stoic, quiet, and reactive, The other people are being loud, talkative, and creating narratives.
That's correct.
That perpetuate this false narrative about you as a strong collaborator.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a snitch. That meant as soon as I feel like somebody's doing something to me, whether it is or it's not, I'm gonna voice that
concern. Yeah.
I'm gonna voice that concern
instead of internalizing
to someone who can help me.
Correct.
I'm gonna voice it to someone who can help me. I'm not gonna just voice it to my girlfriend over here.
Yes.
And I'm gonna be weak in that. I'm not gonna try to always solve it myself, because the fact of the matter, if I'm dealing with a peer, it's not my responsibility to coach and develop that peer. It's that person's supervisor. It's their responsibility to develop and coach that peer. Yeah. So I'm not going to be the one at the forefront, at the front lines of everybody's development anymore, checking people and coming in and educating people all the time. Because what I do in doing that is I relinquish some of that softness, some of that, pulling back that I need to replenish myself.
Yes.
So that was big. And every morning I did on my last show, I talked about sort of the 5 things I did to just kind of start getting out of depression, which was get up, brush your teeth,
get dressed,
make your bed, get dressed, walk outside, just walk. Another thing, so as an add-on to that, the next layer of things was I put my phone on do not disturb. Once my children were in school, and my children's phones are favorited, so even if they had to call me, they could get through.
Yes.
But anybody else?
Nope. Yeah.
And my time is it's a certain time of day where I kind of turn on. I put my phone on do not disturb because what I notice is that I don't have the temperance. I can't not answer the phone.
Yes.
I can't not look at the emails.
Yes.
I can't. And then one thing will lead to another. It'll cause me to think about something, a quick win. I'm a big quick win person. Let me just do this real quick. And now I can check it off my list. And then I look up, and that time when it's time to turn on, I've already turned on. So I've missed my workout, my personal workout. I've missed my meditation time. I missed my time to cry or laugh or do whatever I have to do to replenish myself. And I've missed out on those things. And I'm not going to really get it back for the rest of the day. Because once the day starts to take shape, I'm too tired. Yeah. I'm too depleted from investing and pouring into other people. And so that of course, eating and hydrating, those are key things. But putting your phone on do not disturb will give you the space to eat, sit down, chew your food and all that stuff. True. So those are some of the tips from us on if you're going through any of that. Yeah. Hopefully you all can use that as well.
I agree.
I think we covered everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? We talked.
We do. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be back.
Yes,
and I'm sure we'll have a whole new slate of things to discuss.
That would be awesome.
But this was fun.
This was fun. It definitely was. Yeah.
And Tabitha's kind of behind the scenes. When I met this girl, she didn't want her picture up on anybody's website. True. So her being here today with me and with you all, you don't know how big this is. Yeah. And I appreciate you being here. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your glow.
Thank you.
Your knowledge.
I appreciate the space to share all of the background and all the things. It's been great.
Yeah, your authenticity, everything. Thank you for sharing all about you today. Yeah. And I know our audience will benefit from a lot of what you shared. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. I'll be back.
Wow. I really want to thank my good friend Tabitha for being here and sharing the stories and perspectives that definitely resonated with me, and I'm sure resonated with many of you out there, regardless of your background. Some key takeaways for me were that diversity alone is chaos. Yeah, we nailed that. It's chaos. And so as people who are in social spaces, especially as leaders, we need to really invest in something called intercultural competence. And those are the skills, attitudes, and behaviors that lend to more self-awareness, more social awareness, more empathetic perspective taking, and more of a willingness to meet each other where each other is. And so we really went into detail about that. Secondly, collaboration requires a little bit more than good intention. We just can't say collaborate and then it happens. We actually require some of those same skills we talked about on the diversity front, where you want to be fueled by the contributions of others, that you listen actively, that you have the skills to actually manage conflict as opposed to being distracted by it. So that collaboration is a key to any social environment where people are expected to live and thrive together. Last but not least, we talked about the emptying that happens when leaders, and in our cases, strong Black women, are just doing everything at a fast pace and often with little rest and with little support. And so the 3 things we discussed as far as replenishing yourself when the day-to-day just empties you is, number 1, being self-aware, understanding that you're doing all the things and that you're probably tired, and sometimes there's stress there, and sometimes you just need help. And then having the courage to ask for that help. That's sort of like 1B. All right, 2 is utilizing your resources, okay? And so that's using your friends and your family and your quiet time and the things that you have at your disposal to really take a beat. And then number 3 is embracing the vulnerability, embracing the loss, embracing the grief, embracing the stress so that you're one with it and so that you can take a positive, healthy step on moving through and past it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to the page. If you've liked what you've learned, share the videos with your friends and your family. Continue to follow us and stay tuned for another great episode next week. Before we go, you know what we have to do. Let's take care of the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or affiliate content providers. The information shared is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, including but not limited to medical, psychological, or coaching services. Listeners are encouraged to consult with their qualified practitioners for guidance tailored to their personal needs and circumstances.